Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Karen Roberts, and we're here to talk about credible sources and finding credible sources. All right. So, how many of you Google regularly? I do. How many of you are YouTubers? Well, I don't consider myself a YouTuber, but I use YouTube all the time. You know what? In fact, I'll tell you a little secret. My hubby, my husband, learned how to tie his bow tie by watching YouTube. I'll admit it, I also use Wikipedia sometimes to get a start of learning what I want to learn. But did you know that anybody, you and me, we can go on to Wikipedia and make edits. Anyone can edit on Wikipedia. Anyone can add something to Wikipedia. But I do use it to get an idea of where a location might be. I use it sometimes if I know nothing about a subject and I scroll down and I find sources and I go to those sources. And some of those sources sometimes are credible and some are even, you might say, scholarly. And there could be a peer-reviewed article there too as well. So different sources, different uses. They point, like Wikipedia, Google, YouTube, they point us in directions where we can get even more credible information. So let's get started on the types of sources we might encounter in our journey to analyze our business situations. Okay, so scholarly peer-reviewed. Just exactly what is a scholarly peer-reviewed article or source? Well, the author goes through a lengthy process. This process involves much research, lots of data, tables, charts, all kinds of things. It involves a lengthy writing process, saying what exists today in the author's thinking, what that author has observed. So summary of the situation, summary of the concept, giving the context, giving like an executive summary. That's pretty much what you could say an abstract is, a very short paragraph that gives the elevator speech of the entire research that has been done. So this could take maybe the author a year to a year and a half to compile all this research. And so the author researches people, perhaps interviews people, takes polls, does a lot of primary research, and then submits it to just the right publication that is focused on that industry. The focus is on that topic or that discipline. And then the publisher of this scholarly peer-reviewed journal hands it off, takes off the name of the author and hands it off to at least two individuals who do a blind review. The reviewers do not know who the other reviewer is, nor do they know the author's name. And they make annotations on the article, on the researched article. And they send it back to the author for the author to consider and do a little more research and a lot more revision. And so that the author goes through more revisions, sends it back to the journal, and the journal sends it back to the blind reviewers. And this could go on 2 or 3 times. And then finally, the reviewers say, it's ready for publication. And then it goes into the publication process. But at the end of the article, there are so many references that point to other credible sources in some meaningful way. And then it is published. That is the journey of a scholarly peer-reviewed article. And it is credible, even though it may disagree with another scholarly peer-reviewed article about the same topic. But it is credible because it's worthy. It's worthy. Then we have our professional and trade publications, like hotelier, dealing with the hospitality industry. And so these professional trade publications provide news, analysis, reviews, products, editorials, book reviews, and they advertise. But it's all focused on an industry or a business. And there may even be some job opportunities in these types of publications. And you will find them very credible to your particular industry. So there's a time to use them as well. And then there are government sources, all kinds of government sources that are very credible. And they provide statistics. They may talk about economics, job industries, agriculture, census. Census data is extremely important to marketers, health information, the CDC, international information, and much more. And they are credible. And the publication of them, your sources, you need to follow the correct way to provide source information. Then there are news magazines and newspapers. So there are your local publications, but then there are those highly respected publications like The Economist and the Wall Street Journal. You have the New York Times, the LA Times, and so forth. They provide news, worldly news, local news. They give reviews. They talk about products. They give editorials, book reviews on certain aspects. There's advertising in them, and they could have job opportunities as well. Forbes magazine, New York Times, LA Times, and so forth. Note, these are not peer-reviewed, and they're written for certain audiences with certain assumptions and issues. So The Economist, you would say, okay, that is focused on the economy. So you wouldn't go to that to talk about politics, so to speak. I hope not. But politics seems to enter into much, doesn't it? Then there are popular sources like Time Magazine and People. They provide information about celebrities, products. They give editorials, book reviews, entertainment, short articles, short snippets on what's happening today. They're written in simple language, and there's a lot of advertising. For these, I hope you will not use these sources in your analytical papers or at the School of Business. They're not appropriate. They're just used for the general public on a superficial level. Then we have popular online sources. We've talked about Wikipedia. There's Merriam's dictionaries, there's blogs, there's YouTube, there are podcasts, and their company websites. So please do not try to define an industry term by using Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Go to an industry source, go to an industry leader to define a certain topic, such as what is transformational leadership. Don't go to Webster's for that. And there are credible blogs by professional organizations, and then there are blogs that are not they're not scholarly, they're not analytical, they're superficial, and they could have false information on them, as well as YouTube podcasts and even company websites. You have to be careful on what the company website looks like. And it's always good to go to find their mission, their vision, and what they are doing in the community. So those are some things that you would want to think about if you're going to be writing about an industry or a company. So how in the world do we analyze and figure out what credible sources there are? Well, there are several ways we can do this. We can start with the source. And this is adapted from the CRAP method, which I don't like that, CRAAP method, that was developed by Merriam Library at Cal State Chino. So I gave it different names. So the source, what is the source of information? Who is the author, the publisher, the source, the sponsor? Could be a sponsor. And so you ask, who is the author? What are the author's credentials or the organizational affiliations? Is there contact information? How can I get in touch with the author? Or how can I get in touch with a publisher? Is there an email address or a link? And then what is the extension? Is it .com for the URL, .edu, .gov for government, .org for a nonprofit, .net? .net serves a little bit less credibility than a .com. .edu is a university. But you have to be careful at an edu as well, because dissertations and might be up there, and so that would be from a student and not a professional researcher or professional scholar. So you have your source, then you have, how timely is this? How timely is this article? So I was talking about a health related issue, and someone said, well, oh, so-and-so wrote a book on that, and I believe that he's a physician and he wrote it, and it's a fact. And so I looked at the book. It was written in 1943. Do you suppose that there is later evidence that can disprove this physician? Oh, he was meaningful, and at the time it was the standard, but that was in 1943, folks. So we have to look at the timeliness. When was the information published or posted? And has the information been revised, or is there a good prospect that it has been revised or updated since it was written? And does your topic require current information? Well, if it's about health, yes. If it's about old medieval literature, perhaps not. Okay, but that's not why you're in the School of Business. And are the links functional? Can you follow the links? Or are they broken? Is there a level of accuracy there? Is there reliability, truthfulness, and correctness of content? Has the author made some assumptions that are not valid? Is the information that the author gives, is it supported by evidence? Evidence. Is it supported by evidence? And then information. What information does it contain that is valid? Information that pertains to the entire scope of the research. And then why? What's the reason the author set out to do this research and to write this article? What is the mission of this author? Is the mission of the author to sell a product? If the mission of the author is to sell a product, then we know everything will be favorable for that article, that product. All of this: source, timeliness, accuracy, information, reason, the STAIR model helps you to decide whether your source is credible. Then there is the SIFT method. And the SIFT method asks you to stop, to pause for a moment and just think about what is being offered here. Stop and think about the topic and how it is presented. And then investigate. Investigate your source. Investigate the publication, investigate the source and the basic facts. And then who originally created the information that is cited and why was it published? And then find better coverage that helps you to go deeper, to understand the context behind the source. Could be the same ideas, maybe discussed elsewhere in richer detail. Do you know? And then trace the context. Context rules. What goes before, what goes after, what goes on the sides, and the culture, the mindset. Trace the original claims. Trace the media. Trace the coverage. Go back to the original source. Then there's the CARS checklist. Credibility. Why should I believe this source of information over another one? How does this source know the information? And what is it about the source that makes it believable or unbelievable? What are the author's credentials? Credentials are very important. And is there contact information? Can I get in touch with the author? What's the author's reputation? And what are the quality controls that govern this information? And again, is it accurate? Is it timely and up to date? And is it reasonable? Are the claims reasonable, fair, objective, and are they consistent? And then is there additional support? Is there corroboration between other sources? And is it externally consistent? And do the claims match with supporting information? Has the author documented properly all the sources? Are there citations? So scholars, your credibility is at stake. The sources you use help guide your thinking and your analysis. Be wise and circumspect as you research and access your sources. I look forward to reading about your sources, your topics, your challenges, your solutions, and your innovation. because I know as a scholar, you are a credible source and will use credible sources. Take care.